So I think I'm live. I don't know for sure. We'll find out here in a second. We'll come over to this side and I'll refresh my YouTube. Hey, it looks like I'm live. Alright. Seems to be that way. There's a YouTube feed for it. I didn't put a share out, so if you want to share, I'm going to try to do one right here and get it shared over on Twitter. Not that it matters, because there's only a few people that may even see this ever and start watching, but yeah, I'd like to see more people. It'd be great to have more people joining in and getting into this, you know, as we call it, RC addiction. Coffee is yummy. Alright, so in this vid, if you've seen some of my other ones on this SSD kit, I'm going to be going over what I go over class 1, the one I've done a couple of vids on. What I'm doing, as you can see, is, you know, by the kind of layout of the, holy cow, that's a little lagged out, by the layout of the setup here. Goodness, yeah, real lagged out. Interesting. Let me see if I can adjust that latency. Let's try alter low. No, I didn't get it in time. Alright. Guess the latency is what it is. So I won't worry about what it's broadcasting. There's a delay time, it looks like. Well, 35, 50 seconds maybe. So anyways, in this SSD kit, the end result goal is to turn it into a 76 Blazer, which is 1-to-1 scale to what my dad had. So I'm going for full scale accuracy on the setup, trying to get everything set absolutely, you know, in the way it should be scaled. So you see leaf springs instead of links, and if you're noticing some weirdness on the tranny and transfer case, and I'll be going over that stuff. So I'm going to do a quick update because I was going over the axles the other day in the front axle. As you can see, the SSD kit is created to have the pumpkin, as you're looking at the front of the vehicle, would be on the driver's side, underneath the driver. But Chevy, in their engineering prowess, put the pumpkin on the passenger side. To make that change to the SSD kit, you can't just swap things. There's things that are set up. They got splines on the C-hubs that allow these things to go on the either tube, but only one way. So when you swap your tubes around, your splines are upside down. Yes, you can rotate that around and spin it, and I may end up doing that as one of the things. But for now, for mock-up, I wanted to do it this way because Chevy also don't have steering linkages, you know, in front of the pumpkin. So this, when I flipped it around, had it set up, it worked out for the steering linkage, I think. So I'm going to try it like this and see if I can make it work. Further modding, I may have to change it. But so as you can see, yeah, I've modded this thing around a little bit. The C-hubs are on upside down and on the opposite sides right now. Now, yes, I could turn the C-hub over to this side, but it's still going to be upside down because of the way the tubes are mounted. So I'm going to double check some things, and once I get done, these are the plastic tubes. I didn't want to hack up the metal tubes. When I built the case, I put the metal tubes in. I pulled those out, put plastic tubes in because I had to cut off the things. I didn't want to start mounting up on the aluminum tubes. So I took the plastic tubes, cut off all the link mounts and everything else, and got them smoothed down to the tube. Had to do some work around the pumpkin here to get that spring and U-bolt connection is tight to the pumpkin, and that's just not for getting it tight to the chassis rail. That's also scale. It's the Chevy was pretty much, that U-bolt was over top the pumpkin in some cases. So anyways, I'm going to go over a more detailed tube once I get everything in order and know what I got to do, what you may want to try to do if you want to do what I'm doing with this setup. The rears are much the same. I built them up. I did use the metal tubes. I didn't put the plastic tubes in for mock-up. I just mocked them up with everything as it is. They turned out pretty good. Now on the front setup, I would like to see if I can squeeze a millimeter. I do hit my button. Squeeze a millimeter toe, so out of each side. I won't be able to get much out of this, maybe a smidge, because they're just a little wide right into the chassis. And when I do a later vid on fitment, you may see that depending on where I'm at. So I got to do a little work here. I can move the driver's side leaf over and make a perfect alignment. This will be one slightly off. It has to be. I might be able to do a little work. And if you can see there, it is kind of leaning a little bit. So I can get rid of that lean and get it more straight up and down. That alone will take care of that millimeter I need on that side and pull the leaf spring in. On the backs, it's just the opposite. I got to come out a millimeter on each side. And these metal link mounts are in the way. So I will be doing a slight bit of modification. I won't be doing it to the plastics. I'll be doing it right to the metal ones here. I know what I got to do. And then I'll have to mod the link mounts themselves, basically eliminating the lower link mount side of it. I'll have to shave them in half to get them in there, and I'll be leaving just the shock mount positions in top. And if you know how the Chevys are set up, if you're looking at my tubes, you notice they're kind of they're opposite 180 degrees of each other. It's because with Chevy, they've got one shock coming off the front, one shock coming off the back. Although when I looked at this, I think I'll spin mine around because I might be able to use it this way actually, with these in reverse with those mounts, and especially after I have to shave them down. So I'm going to leave it like this because with Chevy in the 76 Blazer, one shock, like I said, came off the on the driver's side, came off towards the rear of the vehicle, and on the passenger side came off towards the front of the vehicle. So the shocks were like this on the vehicle. So you'll be able to see that in a minute. They weren't straight up and down or like this or anything like that. They're actually like this, and that's scale, and that's how this needs to be because I'm kind of that way. So anyways, rear axle, I'll be doing some video when I do the front axle. I'll do that. Now the tranny case, the transfer case, I've got the 15 millimeter extension that can be 3D printed. I just bought that. I don't have a 3D printer yet. I'm seriously looking at one. So I just bought that. I threw the transmission together. And when it comes time to do the transfer case, it's kind of unique, and I'll go over that. And to do a Chevy, Chevy has a right drop transfer case. The SSD setup out of the stock box is designed and only goes together without some modding in a left drop, and the transfer case sits perpendicular 90 degrees. So 90 degrees over, it comes off this way, and your rear axle comes out here, and your front axle, because the SSD kit has a driver's side or left side drop for the front pumpkin. So I had to do some modding. Obviously, if you see that, this is set up for right side. I used nothing but the stock SSD parts, so I didn't need to buy anything to make this mod. And set it over. It's rigid, it's solid. I am not afraid of using this, and it performing perfectly, just like the SSD kit is kind of known for. It seems to be a very well built kit. I was able to mod this thing without any problem. And it spins nice and smooth, just like it's supposed to. So I'll be going over, this will be a separate video on how to make this mod to make your tranny, your SSD stock tranny from left drop to right drop for your transfer, your front pumpkin, depending on if you want to do left or right. That way you can take the stock kit and mod it up for a more scale Chevy or Ford unit, and then turn around and know that it's going to work and work properly. Now also, again, because Chevy's transfer case is clocked a little bit, if you're looking at this, you'll see the case is in orientation straight up and down. The case ain't sitting at a 90 degree, it's clocked, because when you look at a Chevy, I was trying to get my stuff set up to screen share so I could pull that pick up and share, but it's not that easy. I've got to figure that out yet. It's easy, I just got to figure it out. But so anyways, I clocked the transmission and then modified everything a little bit to work so everything fits together as it's supposed to, just in a slightly different orientation. And I'll be going over that. So the next step in the manual after the transmission and building it up is the links. Well, I'm leaf spring, so I don't really need to use any of the titanium links. The only thing I'll be using, maybe the panhard bar. I don't think I even need a panhard bar. I probably won't install it, even if I can use it, because I've got this RC4WD drive steering stabilizer. I'm going to try to mod into the system system and make it work properly. So, because Chevys did have these, or you could buy these as aftermarket upgrade for your old Chevys. supposed to help stabilize the steering, and it did on the one-to-ones. I don't know that it'll do much here, but if we can make it work, we're going to add that in. But so all I had to do is really build the steering links from the, for the chassis mounted servo, and then the crossbar. Now, as we're looking here, I say again, I've got these on the back, so I'm going to slide these in here. I haven't tried it yet. I just kind of got them together here, and then did some stuff and seen if I could get back on and get my broadcast going, because earlier I started one, the computer crashed on me, and when it did, YouTube for a while thought I was still broadcasting even though the broadcast had ended. So I'm just going to try to temporarily put this together. Let me see if I got a couple decent screws here. These two will work just to slide in there and snug in a little bit. Put them in place and make sure they're right there. That's the wrong side, and those are the wrong screws. So this might be a little interesting. I may have to put come down with a little longer one and actually slide a nut on the bottom of it. If these things are staying in the upside down orientation, I'd say, because can't hard mount, it's on the bottom. Should be on the top. If I don't need it, I'll probably be cutting it off, obviously, so it ain't digging down. But if I can spin it around, make it on top, so it's out of the way, might probably leave it. Excuse me. So anyways, I have to dig out a couple screws. So we're going to cheat this and make it easy. I'm just going to use a couple tools. A tool and a zip strip. So we'll slide this thing in here. I'll slide this. Oh, that one's too big. Need a smaller one. Eyeglass screwdriver in there just to hold it in place. And this side, I'll just slide this zip strip I got handy just to hold it in place and not tighten it. So what I want to try here is, can this set up and work well and be out of the way and still be tall enough, because I had to mod the end of the axle tubes. These are the plastic axle tubes on the front. I had to mod the ends a little bit, although when I did, so I had to mod the ends so I could swap the C-hubs, but when I put it together, I did put it together the way it's supposed to be. So literally, I probably will swap these over, and when I do flip these end to end, I should be able to do that when I put it together. So as you see, it's not quite as low as I was hoping. You see, it's kind of just underneath there. So, but I can clock that a little bit, but it does. The pumpkin does get in the way of the steering on this orientation. It works well that way. It does get kind of full steering. Well, once it's in place, actually, and this thing's back in there, probably worked pretty good. I wish I had another little zip strip, because that's holding better than the screwdriver did. But actually, that may not work out too bad. Slip this thing back in here. Slip the screwdriver back in. I'll leave her up in the air for a minute. There we go. So that's full clock that way. That would be, full clock turning right and full clock turning left. And the only thing it's hitting on is the set screw right there, which I'm going to flop those around to probably button screws. It's hitting on both sides, and I could get another degree or two out of there. So what I'm going to have to do is see, if I can flip these around and put these in the right orientation, I might have to put a couple spacers. That's what I did back in the 2009-10 when I had the original SX or SC10 original axial. So I made one with behind the axle steering, steering links and everything was behind the axle instead of in front. It wasn't too hard to do, but I had to put a couple little spacers and actually drop it down a little bit to get below the links. Actually, no, that one I set it so it was above the links. It was between the links, and there was enough room, the clearance, the little tweaking, so it was able to get full compression, not be the way. So I won't be able to put this one in front of the pumpkin because there's just not enough room. But I can bring that up 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and that will hide it or put the bottom of it right at the same length. So I'll most likely swap these C-hubs around and knuckles around, get them in the right orientation so they're properly sitting in the upward space. I might need to do just a little bit more modifications to those axle houses. But like I say, I'm using the plastic ones. I've got another set of them just in case I have something mess up and I need to try something different with another set. But I think I'll be able to work these, get it set up, and when I'm done with this, be able to mimic what I did on these plastic housings to the metal ones, install everything, and have left passenger side pumpkin and behind the pumpkin steering. So that's gonna be pretty good. I mean, putting links together. When I started the video earlier in the computer crash, I was gonna build the links, but at the computer crash, I went ahead and built them. So I mean, that's really, the gist of it. When I mount the tranny, like I say, I'm gonna have to come up with a different mount and modify a completely different mount here because of the different orientation and the angles. That complicates things a little bit, but not too much in a way that in some ways makes it easy, because if you know this kit, the front of the motor and transmission mounts with a couple mounts into the chassis, and then the plate just mounts the tranny case in this orientation, with the transmission setting upwards, obviously. So that's being moved, obviously. That's in a different place. So with the tranny being held up here in the front, and this, in the front like this, with this in this sort of different orientation, I might be able to make a pretty easy mount right off the top of the chassis plates, or even within the chassis rails, and just make an angle plate to mount the two pieces together. And not even have to use the underneath skid to actually get it out of the way and lose that little drop area. Maybe get a different mount and put it in there that's flat just to strengthen the chassis in the area. But that's where we're at, is at the chassis build area. Once the links are done and installed on the front, which I have, still got to put the steering link on there, but I'm not going to put the screws in yet, so that ain't no big deal. I'm just going to set it up there, pull that out, and let that set there with those, and put this aside, because now it is the chassis build section. Chassis rails and support cross pieces. As you see here, we started out with the doing the shock towers in front. I've got the lean back SSD kickback, and I put these on the other kit too. That will have its own video log in. I've got that mostly built right now. I just got shock roller today, put it together. So anyways, these will be going on the chassis rail, and this will be kind of mock-up along the way, but it won't be too bad. It'll be, the first couple pieces will be done, and then when it gets to putting in the plate here in a few seconds, I'll probably put it in now to get everything built. And then when it comes time here to both sides up, and then when it comes time to put the transmission in play, I'll have to work right there, and I'll probably just leave the transmission mounted loose for right now. Make sure everything's in its place, because this has to go up into this mix somewhere along the line too, on the front axle. So open up a bag of H, pull out a couple of rails. Passenger side, the driver's side. I have to start with the driver's side, so I can put this up here. Now bag J, actually bag K for this, but I don't know that we need a panhard mount, so I guess I probably have to do a little bit more research really before I get too far into this spot right here at the moment. just because this is the front bumper and back bumper mounts. Those will go in place. The frame extensions, which I won't be using, I didn't have to use them in the other kit. Although if I do decide to truck the other kit as opposed to running it as a Blazer, which has been a thought, I may at that point add the chassis rails and get the extra length out of it. Go for a long bed C15 or C20, probably C15 for that class 2 unit. So panhard mount, don't know if I'll need that. This is, I believe, the front. Yes, the front. Do this just so they don't have it marked. Put F on that and a rear on that because that came with the rear frame rails, which I'm not using. So those things go there out of the way, just so I know which is which and I don't mess them up, mix them up. Go ahead and just cut this bag open a tad, get it ready to work. Okay, so the first thing it's got you actually doing is mounting the panhard mount with the shock tower on the chassis rail. But I don't believe I need the panhard mount. So what I need to do is probably find this other bag of screws in here that I've got. Get some extra screws in, or some nuts in this one bag out. That's mostly all screws. Put that out anyways. Okay. Oh, I know where I got them all. They're in that G-Made bag, which is right there. The axle built, I used the G-Made U-bolts, and I bought the G-Made bolt pack, which had the U-bolts and a bunch of their M2, M3s, M2.5s, and a bunch of nuts for them. So I've been using snot out of those. I got the RC4WD Driveshaft shackle mount, so it has nuts and bolts, so the shackles mount the least on the axle. So what I'm going to end up doing here is, because I'm modding as I go where I can, and then figuring out what I have to when I have to. So we'll take our axle mounts out, or sorry, shock towers out, and figure out which is which. It's supposed to be the back, that's supposed to be the front. Your shock post, I think it doesn't really matter, put them either way. But yeah, I'm going to put them in the back. I'm not going to be using them. I may mount a magnet there, mount a magnet system there. So, cut off these ones, because these are the mounts for those. It gives me an extra little nut and bolt, which I've got some in here anywho. And then, that's the tranny mounts along with that. So, this will go in, this will go in. And they've got us making this right here. Now, this is where, because the wheelbase on this vehicle is designed to be 12.3, and the wheelbase on the RC4WD drive is actually 11.3. I need to lose an inch. I can gain some of that stuff in the back where they got you moving some stuff in. On the front, what I may end up doing is having to shift this back a 1/4 inch. If I can get 3/4 of an inch off the back, I can bring this and have to put a couple new holes in here and on the inside I may use the panhard brace up in there. Maybe that's what I'll do right now. I'll mount it up and leave it in there, and at the end of the day, if I don't need the actual mount, I'll trim the mount pieces off. And that allows me to use that mount if I need to, and I don't need the panhard on this system, I don't believe. If I do, then I do. I got it. But if I don't, I don't. But if I need the panhard on this system, this is going to be the kicker. I swap the pumpkin over. Panhard really should go on the other side of the chassis. So I'm going to do that. I'll put this in with a couple nuts here. Little nylock nuts. Get those there. Where's my little thing here? That one started. Swap my bit end. And looks like the lag is getting better. And just snug this into place right now. Just snug them up and mount it for now. They're not locked, so if I have to, when I go to tighten them up, I'll tighten them up. So, because I don't need the panhard. Now it's got us putting the skid plate and the side plate on. So I'm going to go ahead and install them, like I said, because I'll probably end up having to mock the snot out of the skid plate if I even use it. If I can't use it or don't use it, I'll have to obviously make a different mount and skid, or you know, maybe I'll buy one of the pumpkin protection pieces for the diamond axles, and I'll mock that up underneath the slightly hanging little transfer case, and that way it's got a little bump spot there, so it's not catching and dragging, messing up my pretty case. Now when I'm done with this, when it's all built, I'm going to clean it all up. It'll get nice and cleaned up, everything gets smoothed out, checking, you know, all the seams look good, and I'm going to be painting it. I'm going to say full scale this thing. I think I'm going to go red with it, potentially orange. I got to take a little better look. I know most of them were just a machine gray, and I may just actually paint it with a more silver tone, just to give it that look. But that's down the road. So now it's got us doing which part? The center plate and our side chassis. Body post. Stinking body post. Okay. So get this little guy open a little bit. This has got the outer slide rails, which I may install these. I don't know. I'm going to slide them out. But yeah, out the way anyways. Don't know if I'm going to want them on this one. You know, man didn't have side rails, but I believe he had chrome bars. So I have to maybe try to dig up some of the old pictures and see if I can find a couple of the Blazer. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The other ones. So, we use these. This is the correct side, and it goes to here. And this is opened up. Got tranny mounts. Now this is designed to be reversible, but when you mount it, you're supposed to mount it with the closest mounting hole by the side closest to you. And that has it set in the second hole back, so like that. So that would be fine. That works for me. I'll get that in there. Like that. This one goes in the first hole, and then it's actually getting what? Well, it's M3 by 10 buttons. These look like M3 by 12 buttons. Let's take a peek. Alright, 8 millimeters. Well, definitely 14s. And 3x10s. Well, let's open up this little pack then. We'll get in there. Got plenty of nuts and bolts. What we got in here? Flatheads, set screws, and cross pins. Well, I guess there are a couple buttons. Let me take a look. I think that's maybe a 10. There's like 3, 4, 5 in there. Bunch of button heads in here. So I think we'll open this one. Yeah, I just pour them out all over the place. Other people put them in little tubs. And then of course I've got these ones. These got a bunch of, looks like 10mm button heads in them, potentially. Those might be 12s. So let me see, where's that couple of 10s I see? Thought I did. I don't have 10s. Okay. 12s and 6s and 8s. That's a 10mm. And those are longers. 14s or 16s. There's a few in here too. Yep, I'm going to open up all of these and then just all go back and keep the Ziplocs today. Cutters go away. Let's see, that looks like a couple 10s. And we need 2 of them on each side. There's 1. And there's 1. So let me take a quick look. Shemazel. Now let's go in plastic. So, you know, through a plastic piece, through a metal chassis rail. Sometimes it's a little tricky. That one in there. Get this way in place. Now, as far as the skid plate, center skid, you don't necessarily, you know, if you're mounted per the instructions, it will go with the mounts pushed off to the driver's side of the chassis. When I was looking at driver's side, it'd be looking like this. Because my use is everything else is symmetrical in your mounts, in your link mounts. I'm not using links, so I could literally switch it around, put that mount on the passenger side, and see if I could use that to mount a piece of C channel, and you know, bent around a little bit to come up and over. So I'm going to do that. Because if I can use the skid plate, make it work, and just do a little cutting and where the transfer case is poking through and put a cover over it, great. I got those extra diff covers, plastic ones, so I can mock one of those up on the bottom of the skid plate where it comes through. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Get this in place. So these two go there. And goes in there. So a lot of you may have heard in Michigan there was some heavy flooding. A dam broke in Edenville, Midland County, and flooded out a little town called Sanford in Midland. Well, I live in Midland. That's where I'm at, in the Midland area. And actually, I'm only 8 to 9 miles away from the Edenville Dam. It's almost due west and a mile or 3 north from my current, where I live. But as the crow flies, probably 8 to 9 miles. On that same elevation, maybe even a little higher than the actual dam and levee. And this is the levee that broke. It wasn't the dam. The dam's still there. Dam's the mechanical part where they allow water through. A levee's just a bank. Well, the levee got saturated with water, basically liquefied and just washed away. So the dam's there, the levee's not. Caused a lot of problems. I've seen Facebook videos of houses and propane tanks and mobile homes and trailers and you name it, it was floating. Propane tanks were still hooked up, still turned on. That's a large cabin community, but it's also a lot of people live there year round, retired up there, so a lot of retirees. But yeah, it's only about 8 miles from my place, and it's kind of crazy. It's not the first flood we've had, but it's the first flood we've had where it's been that rapid and caused that kind of damage. In '86, we had a really huge flood. Same area, everything flooded out. Down at the area by the courthouse downtown, behind it, there's a place pretty kind of world famous called the Midland Ridge. It's a 3-junction bridge. One of the few 3-junction footbridge. One of the few 3-junction footbridges ever designed and made. So yeah, that's kind of a cool little thing. But that was flooded in '86. It was literally, it's a fairly high structure. It sits 30 feet over the Tinnewasee River, and it's probably 15 feet high. And in '86, the water was so deep you could maybe see the top 2 foot of the very top rings of this ridge, and they're kind of like 3 arches that come together in a Y kind of shape, a tri-leg shape. Kind of its little call of glory, if you will. So anyways, it's not the first time we've had heavy duty flooding. We had actually 2015, kind of almost like 76 or 86, not as bad as the flooding in '86, but almost. Went away a lot faster. Now, I got a lot of water here. The yard was very wet, but nothing like some of these people are seeing it. So, got time, say a prayer for them. Pray that everything's all right. They're not stressing through this because most of them just lost their entire world. And that's not a good thing. But we're humans, we're Americans, and, this too shall pass and we shall prevail. So, the next step here is after you put the little outer skid and the thing in is the front mount for the other side of the chassis. Who's that? That's the wrong one. Let me see what we got here. Oh, okay. It actually got me putting on. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Looks like it's got me putting this, this front piece here. Alright. Don't know why they're, that's not the, well, although it looks like it, it's not it. A little confused of what I did on the other one. I think it's one of these. Yes, this one. That's the one. Looking at the wrong parts bag. It's like the servo mount. It's got the support on. That's the part. I like it. Alright. Mount this up here in the back 2 holes. That piece has any screws in there? Nope, but it does say some M3x8 button heads, which we have right there. And there's another 8er. It's a 6. There's another 8er. And I'm going to check those to be sure. And drop my face down to 8mm. 9, 8. Schmeasel and schmazel. As long as I can see it, I got a pretty good eye for kind of guesstimating distance, if you will. So why it's kind of a pain sometimes to have to pick through screws Once you use them a few times, you pretty much tell which one's which. So these go in these back two holes, right? Oh no, and 2.5 by 8. Button screws threw me on a loop. Little dogs. Let me see here. These are my 2.5 by 8 buttons in here. No, that's a 10. Those are both 2.5 by 10 buttons. Mostly M3 stuff. There's a 2.5. 2.5. Let's see. Looks like 6mm. It's actually got an M3 by 8 and okay. I'm gonna use this M3 by 8 that I got here. That's the 10. That's that. No, that's the 8. That goes in the front. I'll have to dig up that 2.5 M2.5 by 6mm. That's one of the things about this kit. They do use, like you would think most kits, theirs are both either 2.5 by 6mm or 2 M3 by 8s, but they're not. They actually got a couple spots where you mix bolt mountings like that. It's a little different. Or they're using an M3 and an M2.5 instead of both M2.5s or M3s. Length is kind of irrelevant. What this mount does is allows the curve of the chassis to continue with your mount, but it keeps your servo mount flat. So your servo isn't setting off at a tangent. Steering servo, that is. Okay, so that actually is an M2.5 by 6 button head. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. A little better looking there. Let's get down to 6mm. Bingo. Flip this baby around. There we go. Front servo mount is mounted. It's a little snug along the way, just to make sure everything to the moment is snugged up. Kind of hard getting that in there with the chassis. I think I got those little pair of pliers. I thought I bring a little pair of pliers with me. Yeah, let me see. I might be able to just snug that a little bit. I know I got it pretty snug already, but it could use a little more. Just to make sure they're holding solid. Not too tight though. What you want to do when you're building this stuff is leave it just a little loose, so you kind of shift things around as you're putting it together. Sometimes you build it too snug, you need to kind of move something, you can't do it, everything's kind of locked real tight. So just snug your stuff up when you're building. So, next spot is one of these. Get the right one here. And it's that one. Yep, that's the one. That's the passenger side. Now this goes in there, and another M3 by 6, because that will mount to that. Come on, get back in it. It's got a screw and a nub. The nub goes in the little one front hole, and the screw goes in the back. Okay, it just doesn't sit in there very well until you screw it tight. course, it comes off at an angle, and that doesn't help holding on that side. Yeah, not very much of a nub on this one. There it is. Okay, M3 by 6. Again, same thing, just until it's just holding it and it's not sloppy. And that's in place, and the other one's M3 by 8 on the back side. There's that other M3 by 8. Goes in back here. Sure, holes lined up good. Come on, there it is. Always when you're lining it up, make sure you're not going into the whole square. It's plastic, so, and a lot of times when you thread plastic a second time, it's more apt to strip out. So that's also another reason why you just want to put things snug until you're into position. You got everything in place. You know it's where it's supposed to be. Everything's fitting properly. Then you go through it the last time and snug it up. Again, no Loctite at this particular point. I would have put a little Loctite because that'll pan hard is aluminum. I don't know that I'm even going to be able to use it on the other side except for maybe on the outside of the chassis. So we'll see, because it's made to go on the inside, on this side over here, like this. That cut goes around the chassis, so not sure I'm going to be able to use it on that side, but I could always mount it outside like so. Do a little, mod and make that go through there and pop another hole, get it wherever it's supposed to go. Right there. Actually, I could probably use that outside. Just do longer screws and go through it. And if I use it, I use it. Longer rod end to get to it, probably work if I have to use it. So we are moving to the next spot. Now we're at the back, which is our piece here in our rear shock tower. Now, because on this, I'm doing something different with the shock towers. I'm not going to be using, obviously, the fronts because I got these ones, and I won't be using the backs because my shocks will be mounting in different locations. Now, I may have to mod a link to that. Hopefully, I'll be able to use this or the other mount in the back. So, we're just going to mount this little baby in there. Note of the shock tower, what it calls for is a countersunk flathead that goes in the shock tower, but I'm not using, so I'm going to go ahead and use a M3 by 10 button head. That's a 12. There's a 10. And I've got a bunch of screws from the other kit still too. I'm pretty sure those are 10s. They might be 12s. Check. Yeah, 12. There's the 10. Shoot. Another 10. That's an 8. 8. There's a 10. I'll have to get some other ones from the inside. So this one goes where? Now again, this allows you to move this in. Now here's where I'm probably going to make a little difference, because you got different rails. They want you, as you for the build for the 12.3 wheelbase, go here. But I moved the other one in here, and it's still too long. So time to do some modding. I'm going to do this right now. Get this out of the way, because I need to bring this in anyways. I know I do. And I may even need to bring it in more than it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this out of the way for the moment and stretch it, bend it back so it's out of the way, not in my path. This can go in here, and if I have to, if that works out, I'll turn around and trim this link off a little bit so it sits where it's supposed to, and it'll go into place. If it doesn't work out, you know, I didn't trim it off and I still use it as it's supposed to be. But I think I'll be able to do this and have to go in maybe even a little bit more. So I may end up having to drill one more hole to get in here. And a nice thing with this is I can use that same screw. This is going to push this out a tad. Shouldn't be a big issue for my use right now. Just got to get it in there so it's threading and get it to start from the front. So it's at least locked in there and tight for now. And again, you don't want to go tight, just kind of snug. One more M310 to the back side. So I move that in now 2 holes forward instead of 1. They got some of these holes a little elongated just for that reason. So it's designed a little bit to allow you to move that stuff and get a shorter wheelbase, and I do need that shorter wheelbase. We're going to go ahead and I don't think there's anything else that goes in that. So I actually probably be able to go to an M3x6 for this because it's threading through pretty much out the back on that one. And I will. Just because that way it ain't hanging out that far. Now it turns out I need to mount a shock there. Well, then I can just put a longer button head in there and mount the shock and a bolt on the back of it, and voila. One chassis shock mount in a low key area. So let's go an M3. That 6 will work. I guess that 6 is as good as any 6. That way it ain't protruding out. At least for now. And if I need to mount, like say, the shocks, then so be it. So that one goes there. Now it's got me mounting the transmission. We're going to bypass the transmission mount. Come back to that because that's going to require some work and some modding. That 10 by that 10. Now it's got us on the other side doing the other chassis rail. And again, M3x10s and M3x8s. So there's my 2 M3x10s. And there's an M3x8. And those 3 there, 1 in front. Okay, those in the mount. So I don't need the 8 right now because the M3x8s mount through for the transmission mount, which isn't there because I didn't mount the transmission. So we can pass that. Just line that up where it's supposed to go. Now, you know, there's no room there, but if you need to, you know, you might be able to shift this. So I might have to. I might not even end up using this much more than this little part right here. Just these outer edges that are mounted in there because I don't need the link mounts. And there's a good chance I may not be, you know, I'm not mounting the transmission to that, the train case to that. So there's a good chance that's not even going to be. So I'll get this in there started a little bit. I don't want to start that well, so we'll just put it on here this way, get our spots lined up. There it is. Got a couple little spots there. And these again go into these little spots because I need that to go in here and with it. And then this mounts there. So that one goes in there, that one goes in there. Whole alignment potentially could be a little better, I guess, at least looking at it right now. We'll see in a second here. Okay, pretty lined up. Once it's in the proper layout, it holds lined right up, screw drops right in. And setting it there is looking a little off. This is where your M3x8 goes to put your transmission mounts. I'm going to bypass those for the moment. Get this mounted in place. Once I got this mounted in place, and what I did when I got the axles built lining up the leaf springs, I built the other one right up to putting the shocks on because I didn't have shock oils. So it was all pretty much together, and what I was able to do is just take this out, these axles to that chassis, and put them in place to make sure they were in the proper or really close setup. That's how I know they got to be moving a little bit. So now that's there. We go ahead and put this piece in, and that was an M3x6, which is right there on that one. What did I do back here to move that? That's back there, so it's that one. So I ain't gotta worry about that. So we'll put this bolt in here. Make sure we're lining up our thread, because that's going to be a little off in the back just because I moved that brace forward 2 holes. I really don't even need to trim those. They can work with that little tweak in there. It's not that big of a deal. There's the M3x8 on the back of that one. There we go. It's a little cockeyed though, so you gotta kind of get it through the one, and then make sure it's going into this one at the same time. Now we're up to probably close to having us put the front on. Front shot. Oop. Pretty sure that's what it's going to be. Yeah, it's doing the back braces here. Okay. Where is that? There's the front. If you need to put your extensions on to lengthen your chassis, then you'll add those to the chassis and then your brace. I'm not using the extension because it's plenty long enough for my needs. Yeah, there is an up and down, top and bottom of this. So back is got little nubs here. They're not there, although down here it does show them there with the chassis. Okay. So rear bumper mount. Okay, that's the front up there. That's why. So we'll put the back on because that's what I got. Our back one goes with the nubs up, so it goes in this orientation, and that is an M3x6, and we're going to need a little bit of this. M3x6, M3x6, M3x6. There are 4 of them because this is. Yeah, I'm not going to put that in there because I will have to tweak things a little bit as I modify. So this is where you would use Loctite because this is an aluminum mount. It's one of the upgrade pieces that come in this SSD kit is aluminum mount. Yeah, M2x5 and M3s in the back. So I need 2 M3s first. We'll get those in there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Might not have been too far in there. Make sure it threads in properly first. Oh yeah. So I just had it pushed in too far probably. Oh, it's not far enough. Not quite far enough. Doesn't look like. Just gotta make sure it's a tight one. Mr. Ridge. Alright. The other ones are actually M2.5 by 6mm button heads to put this in. The outer farthest rear gets the M3 by 6. I might have M3 by 8. think so. And then the other ones are M2.5 by is there 2.5 in here by 6. There should be another one. If not, I've got a few others. Those are the front. Those gives me the 2.5 by 6 in that one. I have one more here. I'm supposed to have that set up in this pack here. One of these two that I opened up. What we got here? Let's take a peek. This is from one of the axle bags, I think front axle bag maybe. Hmm. 2.5 there, except for a cap head. But I need a button head. Nothing's everywhere. Okay. Might have to be a little bit of screw on here. So anyways, yeah, a lot of people are, at the schools, at the community center, they've opened them up for shelters. So if you're out there, you're not hurting. There's a lot of people over this flood that are having issues. So if you could find your way to sending, clothes, dry clothes, socks, underwears, or usually a lot of the things people need the most of, supposedly, sweat, shorts, shirts, that kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of people could really help it. And I'm trying to round up some of the stuff that I have that's still decent but not being used around here. To see if I can find enough to pass on. I moved a little bit of stuff, but not much. Alright, so let me take a look what we got in this little bag. This has got some 2.5 stuff. It's got a 6. Hopefully. Looks like a couple 10s. Now I may have to go raid the other little tubs of screws that I've got. So I'm supposed to have one more. And I didn't use it anywhere else, not this one. I should have one more in here. I might be overlooking it a couple dozen times. They are a small screw. Three and threes. 3 and 3. Is that an M3? Yeah, it's an M3. One more and 2.5s in that pile. Okay. I'll have to go find one. But I can get this rear mounted and the front mounted. Because I do have the screws for that right there. Yeah, sometimes mixing up your screws is a little bit of a bear. But that's it. I don't mind. If I don't mind, then it don't matter. Now on the front one, they actually got you mounting this thing with these smooth and the bumps going downward. These are obviously, switchable. They'll go on either way. Wow, that seems to be something pushing it apart. Oh, right there. Don't look like that. Oh, there we go. Okay, don't have that side actually in there all the way yet. That's why. And there it's talking about steps 50 and 52, which are coming in. But that's for the link mounts, and I'm not using link mounts. So, okay. Take these screws and open this up. Pull these right here so they don't go anywhere. The ones we need. For the front, same two for the back. This So M2, because that's what I'm set up for. Get this started in the back. And the other one, you're snug there. Just barely tight. That other side snapped into place. Around. And 2.5 by 6 for the rear. Six for the rear. So let me not pass that. So now we're at step 49, which is the rear links. I'm not using links on this kit, from the kit or for the build. It comes in really nice titanium links. They went on excellent on the other setup. They look great, although I might have to get shorter ones for the rear, so I can bring that in a little bit so I can match the Blazer body, which has a little shorter wheelbase than the truck. And step 51 and 54 are lower links, and we're not using them. Step 50 or 51 and 52. Step 53 is panhard bound, not using that. Step 54 is a rear axle. Oh, I still got to do a little bit. So let me get this in here. And put this on here so we're setting right. Let me back up a smidge. This again, here should be this last one, putting the front shock tower, yep, and 3x10 flatheads. So M3 by 8 buttons are going to be fine. M3 by 8, M3 by 8. They're going through these into plastic, so again, no Loctite in any of these. Oh, you know what? I did mess up. Yeah, these are countersunk by 10s. Oh, because they're going into this shock hoop, which is countersunk. So, shmizel shmazel. Pay attention to those things, boys and girls. They do make a difference on occasion. The devil is in the details, as Grandma always used to say. Actually, my grandma used to say one of them, used to say, the devil's in the pudding. Her way of saying it's in the details, but making a good pudding back in the 1930s and 40s wasn't exactly easy. Let's snug these two up, put that front shock tower on and in place. These other two screws, which is another for this other side here. What do those get on the front? Yeah, another M3 by 6 and M2 by 2.5. So I need another M2 by 2.5. The M3 by 6 here. M3 by 5. M3s by 4s. 8, I probably use that. No, that's a 6. Yeah, okay. Wrong one. So this one going here. Then I need 2 M3, or I'm sorry, M2.5, 6 millimeters. Grab my other nuts and bolts. They're probably in some of these nuts and bolt kits around here somewhere. These are all 4s and 6mm. When you build the axles, it's asking for 4s, 5s, and 6s. So you get M3s, 4s, M3s by 5s, and M3 by 6s. I need them 2.5s for those, so we're gonna skip that. And I got other ones around. These are 2.5s, but these are all flat heads. And the 2 buttons that are in there are 10mm. So I could use those if I have to, and I may. So I'm gonna take a walk and go see if I got my other couple screws real closely here. Get those 2 and get them in place and done up. So anyways, the next step was really, like say, links, and I'm not using links, but to this point is installing the rear axle and drive shaft. So basically we're like this. I'm going to find something of fairly decent height and small to an extent. What's that coming from? Use that up underneath there. Come on up out of there. Eat a Twix too. So hungry. I guess Twix is trying to help kids with left and right, because they got right and left on their usually wrapped packages. Those, as I said, need to come out a little bit. I could set them like that, so they mount on the inside, but they're not quite wide enough on the back here. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of mod here. It's where I gotta do a little hustling and bustling around these mounts to slide those out just a little bit more. But we'll set them in here. Just kind of get them laid in a little bit, anyways, just for a little bit of mock-up. Bring this, I guess, bring this forward as far as I can. Because they'll actually be, kind of like this. But to hold them there, and then the fronts. These again need to come in a little bit, although in the back, because the chassis widens up, it's not so bad. But kind of center it between the pumpkins, so to eye it out, that's about, looks like I'm going to be able to mount it with up into these spots with the shackles, and then these front screws, and I'll be able to use those for shackle mounts. Of course, I got to do some line up and some checking to get this thing to, I like to have it set there just for gently, it's on that angle, but I can get, there we go. Bear with me a moment. Go grab my handy dandy measure tape and see where we're at on that wheelbase. Ah, bounce guard. Swing. short. Too short. There. That's 11. A little over 11. So, if I line those up, those would be my rear mounts at that spot. If I were just back mount, that actually mounts for those 2.5mm bolts I need. Moving. Let me kind of just set it here. Come on, baby. Just sit up for daddy. I'm going to go like that with it. That'll hold it in place pretty much where I need it. Now these come all the way to the front basically. Yeah, I don't have those rear shackles tightened all the way down, as you see. I was able to move them a little bit. Just for this reason. Right there. That is 11 3/8, which is about 11.3. That's going to work. So I put these up. Looks like I'll have to add a couple holes. Although, if I bring that back a little bit, where are we here? That way I don't have to drill new holes. I can use those mount holes. And that'll work. I can just slide this back to the back all the way. If I did it like that, white squared out there. Need to be close. So that one's mounted there, that one's mounted there. Yeah, that's going to work out well. I think I'll go with that one. If I can get it there. And make this one here on that back piece. Put in place for a minute. Now go all the way back there. Beautiful. So it looks like I might have one spot where I need to drill a set of holes in this chassis. The shackle mounts down the rear. But if I do bring that forward to those holes, use those front 3mm for shackle mount drops, which would be about right. About ready to grab my tape. I'm going to, just to make this a little mount easy. Just kind of hold it in place. So this is mounting here, like this. Do that though. It's gotta go between those. Oh, no. And that one right there, and that back there. Ooh, damn it. To get this other back piece on there. I can live with that up front. Not exactly 100%, but so close it ain't gonna matter. Especially after backup. You know, I'm gonna square these back off a little bit. That one. Put that there and put that to the back. I think it's gotta go. Still gotta move that out. Definitely needs to be moved out a smidge. $11.4. Come forward just a little bit. If I can keep that there. The shackles will still work, I believe. Yeah, that's 11.5. I can make that work. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, germs and bugs. A shackling we will go on this SSD kit. That's about it. I'm gonna get some food going here for me and Rugrat, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. So thanks for watching. If you catch along this, please like and share if you like that. I mean, I know it's been kind of boring here. As this channel grows and we get more people watching, we get more interaction, I'd love to sit here and BS with you. So if you're out there listening, don't worry about, please go ahead and say something. Say, hey, tell me I'm an idiot, like what I'm doing, whatever. But yeah, I kind of named this, like say, Uncle Salty Crackers, because I'm a bit of a smart ass, if you haven't noticed. And if you haven't, trust me, you will. So from there, I guess we're going to go ahead and call it the time. You guys have a great evening, and I might stop back later.